Ladies and gentlemen, dear friends and guests, welcome at the PalaisPopulaire to our virtual talk, Abstraction and Ornament in Contemporary and Islamic Art. The talk takes place on the occasion of our recent exhibition, Ways of Seeing Abstraction, works from the Deutsche Bank Collection at the PalaisPopulaire. My name is Svenja Gräfin and I'm the director of the PalaisPopulaire. In the background, on the screen, you can see the PalaisPopulaire, which is located in the heart of Berlin. It is Deutsche Bank's forum for art, culture, and sports on the well-known boulevard on Unter den Linden, and we opened the doors to our public in autumn of 2018. I'm very happy to announce and welcome our two renowned and dear guests and experts of this evening. Dr. Gonnella, director of the MIA, the Museum of Islamic Art in Qatar, and Friedhelm Hütte, global head of art at Deutsche Bank and curator of the exhibition. This evening is a joint cooperation with the Arabic Cultural House, the Divan, and the Embassy of Qatar. And I would like to thank Dr. Jeremias Kettner and his team for this great cooperation. Kindly allow me a few technical advices for this evening. All guests are automatically set mute and the video function is out of action. Those guests who registered for the webinar have a chat function and we warmly invite you to write your questions in the chat. After the presentations, we will open up the discussion to the public, and we are very much looking forward to answer your questions and to get in dialogue with you. Just a brief information for everyone who's in Berlin or near Berlin. Since yesterday, we were able to reopen our doors to the public, so I would like to invite you to come to the PalaisPopulaire to see the exhibition real and in life. But now I'm very happy to hand over to Mr. Nawaf, counselor at the Embassy of Qatar, for his welcome remarks. Thank you.
Thank you. Dear Mr. Friedhelm Hütte, dear Ms. von Reichenbach, dear Dr. Gonnella, ladies and gentlemen, esteemed participants. In the name of Chairman of the Arabic Culture House, His Excellency Ambassador Sheikh Abdulla bin Mohammed bin Saoud Al Thani, I am delighted to welcome all of you to this important event organized by the Arabic Culture House and PalaisPopulaire. First and foremost, I want to extend big thanks to Dr. Gonnella, the director of the Museum of Islamic Art in Qatar, who will give us a rare and exclusive look behind the curtains of the vibrant museum and landmark building. The MIA truly represents Islamic arts from 3 continents, spanning over 1400 years, and is the flagship of Qatar museums. A big thank you also goes to our co-organizer and the host, the wonderful PalaisPopulaire. The PalaisPopulaire and the Arabic Divan actually share a similar mission to act as a platform and build bridges through cultural exchange and dialogue. This is what we would like to do tonight, and I am very happy that Mr. Friedhelm Hütte, Head of Art of Deutsche Bank, agreed to join this important dialogue. We can't think of more distinguished experts and are looking forward to listen to your conversation with Dr. Gonnella. To close my short remarks, please let me mention an interesting finding by the Divan team, the story of Qatar's art and museum sector, although well known to the world's leading art experts, hasn't been told yet to a broad German society. That's why the Divan intends to introduce more of the rich and colorful landscape of Qatari museums in the near future here in Germany. Having said this, I see tonight's event as a wonderful start for such an important initiative and wish all of us interesting new perspective and fruitful discussion. Ladies and gentlemen, enjoy the evening. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Al-Nazar, and welcome all the viewers in Germany and outside. And I know so there's some public around our event in Qatar as well. And welcome to my dear colleague, Dr. Gonnella, and my dear colleague, Dr. Kettner. So great that so our plan became reality, and we can do this really intercultural dialogue this evening. So Mrs. Gonnella is normally, of course, based in Doha, the capital of Qatar, but now is, I think, one of your last days in Berlin, because before you will travel back. And so I hand over to you and to your presentation about the building itself. It's very short, but then about some really iconic objects in your wonderful museum. And so to let the public know, so Mrs. Gonnella has seen the show here at the PalaisPopulaire, but I was very happy to see the MIA and to visit the MIA some time ago. So I have fortunately seen many of the objects you're showing in as originals. And so this is, we didn't knew each other at that time, but now, so I'm happy that we can do that together as the director and the curator of the exhibition. So thank you.
Yes, hello, good evening, and indeed, good evening from Berlin. I only go back to Doha in 2 days. First of all, I really would like to thank the Embassy of Qatar and the Divan here in Berlin for organizing this event in the first place. Inshallah, it's the first of a series. The idea, of course, was to give an overview of the art scene, of the museums that are in Qatar, because really Qatar is worthwhile a trip. And two, I can only encourage that once we are over this corona, you should book your next flight. There are so many things to see, and especially with the arts. Then, of course, I very much like to thank the PalaisPopulaire, Friedhelm Hütte, and Svenja von Reichenbach for co-organizing this event and starting the discussion. I will share my screen, inshallah. I can just now, let me see. Yes, don't start with this. So I'm going to introduce the Museum of Islamic Art, obviously, as I'm the director of the Museum of Islamic Art. I will show a little bit the building and show you, for those who don't know, or for those who know, of course, I hope it's not too boring, but still it's always great to look at. And then, especially as we have the conversation with the PalaisPopulaire, the second part about the objects is related to abstraction and ornament, because I had a long discussion with Friedhelm Hütte. For sure, our museum is not only about this. In fact, we are going to change the museum quite substantially, and the gallery, which is about ornament, will be not there anymore. But never mind, I will go through this, and I'm really more than happy to present, which I think is one of the most beautiful museums in the world. Honestly, it's gorgeous. And first of all, for those who have never been to Qatar, just a little map. Where is Doha? Where is Qatar? It's here. Can you see this? Can you see my little narrow? So it's a half an island next to Saudi Arabia and opposite to Iran. It's in the heart of the Middle East, obviously. So this museum, in fact, was the first museum of all the museum buildings and Qatar museums ever erected. And it's very important to know that it was really part of Qatar Vision 2030. I never know the names. It was definitely a vision of the father Emir, His Highness Sheikh Hamad bin Khalifa, the father of the present Emir, who at that time changed all of Qatar, not only museum. He really changed the country, and I'm sure the embassy will agree on this, that he really made Doha a modern capital. And it also was definitely the aim to change Doha into a cultural capital of the entire region. And so he started with the Museum of Islamic Art. And I think Museum of Islamic Art is very, makes a lot of sense because we are in the middle of the Islamic world. And, you know, Islam is something which unites a whole region together. It's something beyond yourselves. It's before the National Museum, for example. You know, the nation is one thing, but really you're a part of a larger community. So I think it's very apt to start with the Museum of Islamic Art. And the Museum of Islamic Art is also, it's one of the biggest museums worldwide. It's really the major one in the whole entire region. It can compete with the big Western museums like the Metropolitan or the Berlin Museum or the Louvre. It's really, when it was inaugurated now 12 years ago, it was a big bang. You know, to have such a huge museum only devoted to Islamic art. It was built by the really star architect, Chinese-American architect Ian Pei, who came to Qatar. In fact, he didn't want to build it in the beginning. He had a couple of stipulations, and one was the site. You see, the museum is between the old Doha, which is on the left, and the new Doha, which is on the right. So really, it's a very symbolic way of you know, transporting the heritage into the future. Here you can see it's in fact an old picture, and here this changed a little bit, but it's the only really nice picture where you can see the main building in the center. You see these beautiful courtyards. And the left, you see where if you come with a boat, that's where you can get off. And then also what is extremely important, and from the beginning, the museum had its own education center, because it's from the beginning, part of the mission and vision was to transport the knowledge about the Islamic art and the culture to the public. So here is from the other side. This is the windows to this stunning library. It's one of the most beautiful libraries in the world, except now we have Qatar National Library, but that's something different altogether. Of course, one of the stipulations, in fact, by the architect was that he wanted to travel in the Middle East. He has never been working in the Middle East before, and he didn't know anything about the cultures, so he indeed went, in fact, to visit a couple of countries, Egypt and Turkey and Iran and Spain and India. And this dome is an direct inspiration of this little structure, which is in the Ibn Tulum Mosque in Cairo. And if I'm going back, you see, I mean, it's Ian Pei definition of the structure, but that's where he got his inspiration from. And here, of course, the other inspiration, you see the arches and the water, which are so central to the Islamic world. And here, this is a view inside of the museum. Again, you see this beautiful pattern of this big star motif. You see the large candelabra of Ottoman mosques, for example. And if you look into the dome, I mean, you will agree it's a stunning piece of architecture. You see here what we call muqarnas. It's a typical Islamic way of domes, for example. You see the little domes here that again are inspired by Ottoman mosques, from Istanbul and elsewhere. So The museum, in fact, also one of the other stipulations was that he wanted to work with the French company Wilmot. He worked with them before in France in the Louvre, and he said, you know, I'm only working with them because they do these amazing displays, and this is exactly what they did. So they have these beautiful showcases, and you can see they celebrate pieces of art. It's a very special museological approach, and in fact we're going to change this in the next year, but the idea, of course, is you celebrate the objects as objets d'art, as you know, as star pieces, masterpieces. You have very little information on them. You see, you come and says maybe bottle Turkey, 17th century or something like this. We are going to change this. But you see, it's one of the most amazing interior designs. And this is another show. One of the disadvantages of this display also is, it's again why we change is people are so much in awe of these objects. They get very scared, especially when you come with your children. You know, well, I get scared if I go with my children, definitely. It's, you know, you don't want to touch anything. So we keep the same company, we're going to change. So this is a little bit just to introduce you to the museum and, you know, to the site. I'm not going to talk about the relaunch today. This is a full, completely different talk, but I'm going to talk about some of the objects now that, because we wanted to relate it directly to the exhibition in the middle of Berlin. And of course, the idea was to speak about ornament and geometry. And this, of course, is something, you know, people normally associate with Islamic art. It's not that easy, I can tell you. First of all, maybe I also should say that Islamic art is not always religious per se. It is also religious, not religious per se. I mean, it's not like a Christian art that is, you know, things related with the church, for example, or with prayer books. When you talk about Christian art, it's very clear. When you talk about Islamic art, it also includes, of course, like Quran, or it includes objects from a mosque. But really, when we talk about Islamic art, we really mean the entire culture, about, you know, and the space that really basically is from Al-Andalus, Spain, to China, and, you know, Africa and Central Asia. So it's a huge space. It is a term, of course, that was coined in the 19th century. So it's actually a little bit old-fashioned and a little bit Eurocentric at the end of the day, because it doesn't really do justice to include, you know, it's like Europe, you know, I mean, what is European? It's a very, you know, dual Museum of European Art is just a very difficult concept. So some people therefore say, you know, they don't use the word Islamic art anymore. They say, you know, arts of the Islamic lands, for example, or Islamic cultures, because even it includes an area in this area, as we all know, it's not only Muslims, but you have Christians, you have Hindus, for example, in India, or you have Jews. So it's a multicultural society, you know, with like Muslim lands as the majority. Maybe we can put it like this. So what is Islamic art? Really, also, again, Europeans say it's all about geometry, and it's about ornaments, and it's not only about ornaments. Still, it has, and I now looked for this specifically, it has a lot, there are some common features, which in a way you can say they are linked to the society and into the arts. So we now talk about the arts. And one of the really big features is a tendency of Islamic artists to cover whole surfaces. We call it Horobakoi. It's not always like this, but it's very often like this. So for example, here you see one of our very famous objects. It's our Mona Lisa. It's a hint, of course, not the Mona Lisa. It's a metal animal. It's like a deer, which was part of a fountain from Spain. It's one of the earliest ones because our museum has mainly objects that come from the art market, not so much from excavations. So this one anyway, it's from Spain. It was one of 4 and it would be around a fountain. It's a wax model, and this is where the water comes from. And here you can see the ornament sort of covering, like a textile covering this. It doesn't mean it has to be Islamic. It could be other ones. You know, you can have other nations, cultural spheres that have similar decoration, but you know, that's not, it's a little bit typical, of course. And also we should know it's an early one. It's a very early way of decoration that basically comes from decoration of the late antiquity. And so it has relationships with, you know, pre-Islamic art. This is where it basically comes from. Then another feature, this is a totally different area. This is a very beautiful tile panel from our excavation, and I wanted to include it to show that ornament is very, maybe it's in fact the most important one. It's with the architecture. So this tile panel, of course, would be part of many tile panels that would have decorated a mosque, a shrine in Isfahan, Iran, from the 15th century, so much different. In fact, very often Islamic architecture, the ornament decorates as you don't see the structure anymore. Again, it's a tendency, it's not everywhere. You also have architecture without ornament, and you can think about medieval Syrian architecture, which has no ornament whatsoever, only when you come inside, maybe the prayer niche is decorated. So, but that's a tendency. This is our famous ceiling from Spain, and we always thought it's Islamic from the Nasrid period. The Nasrid period is the governors of Al-Andalus. You know the Alhambra, for example, is the last phase of Muslim rule. Actually, it's not Muslim. It's we now looked at it again. It's in fact from the post-Muslim area. It was used by Christian governors who came after the Muslim governors from Al-Andalus, and who just liked the design and who were still using the same people to decorate their palaces. So of course, this is a very typical, you know, Islamicate design, but not Islamic. So maybe this is a door. So it not only has decorations, it also has furniture inside. Geometry is very important for furniture inside houses. These are doors, and here this is one from Turkey, from the Seljuk period. There is a very similar one in Berlin, in the Berlin Museum. And here you can see they use the 3 main points of ornamental decoration, really, because they have geometrical design. Here, this big geometrical star pattern, and then they have this very intricate arabesque design. And then if you can see it on the top, of course, they also work with calligraphy. This one is specifically for Friedhelm Hütte, because he will be showing an artist from Vienna, Andrea Czernin, who worked on or related to an artwork, in fact, something similar to this, which comes, wooden panels that come from this prayer it's called minbar in Arabic. It's where you have your Friday prayer on. So the Imam on Fridays would climb up here and would give his Friday prayer. Friday prayers, these minbars, you find them all over the world, but there are very famous ones from Syria and Egypt in the medieval period, during the Crusader period. We are in the Crusader period now, like this is 12th, 13th, 14th century, especially in Egypt. This one was in the Mosque of Ibn Tulun, the same one I showed you before. It was dismantled in the 19th century, which unfortunately happened with a lot of these kind of furnitures. They were dismantled and in fact sold to the art market. It's because of this, in fact, that many of the museums have these objects, because they were sold during this period. So this is why there are objects in Vienna and in London, and this one piece in Doha. And you can see here a side view of this really truly amazing ornament, basically built on arithmetic principles. You have the stars, you have larger principles, with the tilings here, and it really needed a lot of work to get these ornaments together. Then you don't only have, of course, ornaments, architecture. You have them here is leather binding of really a stunning Quran, which we were just donated to the museum, and you're the first to see it from the Ilkhanid period. The Ilkhans were Mongols who, from the Mongols who first came to the Middle East, destroyed all of the Middle East, then they settled there, they converted to Islam and produced some of the most amazing Qur'ans. Here you can see it a little bit better. You see these beautiful ornamental pages, which usually would open the Quran, then of course written in the most beautiful calligraphy of a famous calligrapher. But here also you see, this calligraphy going around the center. So it's very intricate and very strong ornamental entry. Then I wanted to show you that geometry, or abstract, it's not geometry, it's geometry and abstract, of course, also on carpets. And I show you two different types of carpet. This is one of the earliest existing carpets from the Islamic world. It is not very well preserved, but people who know about carpets know how important this carpet is for exactly this reason. It probably comes from Turkey, Eastern Turkey, and possibly belonged to some of the Mongol tribes. And you can see here these funny animals, on 4 legs, including one here on 3 legs. So what was it? Do we know? It's abstract. Is it a horse? Is it not a horse? Is it maybe a sign of the tribe? Even you have this kind of abstract, ornamental. You have this actually in kilims surviving until today, basically, this kind of type of ornament. This is, in comparison, this is a royal one from one of the famous Kashan carpet industries that find its way, I have a detail here, later to Europe, to Italy, actually, why we call it the Franchetti carpet. Franchetti was a famous baron in Venice. And you can see very different here. You see the chinoiserie, it's also ornamental. It's they are put into little cartouches and they are brought into a big general whole. Then, of course, ornaments are everywhere on textiles. You have so many different types, and I just have one here on the left from Turkey with stylized carnations. Are they ornament? What is an ornament? What is a geometry? On the right, you can see one from Spain, and you see the heraldic lines. Was this a textile made for maybe the Christian Spaniards? We don't know, but you see it's also very stylized. These kind of textiles, I mean, I also have to say, why do we all think it's all about ornament in Europe in particular? It's because this kind of objects were collected here in Europe, and they were brought together in the Decorative Arts Museum, where people studied them and they looked into technology. They wanted to get European craftsmen to get inspired by artworks from outside Europe, and this is why these kind of artworks actually survived, and they did inspire. This is Friedhelm Hütte wanted me to get this, to skip this one, but it's one of my favorites really, because of course it's not an ornamental design, but it's ornamental. And you see these amazing birds that actually are a symbol of pre-Islamic Iran. This waistcoat is a dress that was popular. It's early Islamic. It was popular in Central Asia. And so that's where they were wearing it. But the cloth itself actually came from the West. So it was traded. It was from Syria. Maybe there were some suggestions even from the Byzantine lands. So this kind of textiles would be transported to the East, then were cut off into fashion. And so you can, it's a beautiful example how taste traveled and patterns traveled. And also, of course, that not all ornamental styles are arabesques or rosettes or stars, but they also are figural art. I think now I have a few. This is also one of our really beautiful objects. It's an incense burner from Egypt, from the Mamluk period, and it's dedicated to one of the sultans, Sultan Nasser Mohammed. And here you see some of the holes. It's very rare. It's rather large, actually. It's a rather large piece. And here it's a very good example of how script is also used ornamentally. In fact, script from a Middle Eastern perspective is much more important than rosettes or grid patterns or arabesques. And once you can read them, it's wonderful. Then here you have little chinoiserie also, arranged ornamentally. And then you had here would have been originally would be the heraldic sign, here again done by script. So this is one of the great pieces. This is another, I try and show you some of the masterpieces now. So this is the Kavur vase. And here you see was made in Syria in the Mamluk period. And it's a masterpiece for this technology, putting enameled glass on glass, because it's technically super difficult. And Syria, especially Syria and the Levant, was extremely famous for this. In fact, they were the Venetians that later, of course, have this very famous glass production, were inspired by the Syrian glass that came to Venice in the Crusader period. And here you see the ornament again. You see a mix. So you have the inscriptions, and then you have these cartouches with these, sort of cutout ornaments. Then you have, of course, the birds. So they also play. It's not all covered. You can also play with covered and non-covered. And this is the Cavour vase. It survived in Italy. And this is, now I show you two more examples from the ceramics. And this is a plate from Turkey, again, from the Iznik period, that, which has very famous Turkish production for ceramics is from Iznik. And it has a shape, an Italian shape, which shows these strong connections between the two countries, between two countries, Turkey and Italy, but Turkey and the West Ottoman Empire and the West. But the decoration, of course, is Islamic, probably based on calligraphic autographs from the Ottoman sultans. And then finally, I end up with, again, a piece that is a very strong piece from Nishapur, from Iran, rather early ceramics that was well known in many countries of the East, also in Central Asia. And they used the white body and then they decorated it with script. And you can see the script here becomes the ornament, basically. And I think it has a very nice saying, actually. I have to look it up again. What exactly? It's a beautiful saying. Let me see. Let me read it out to you. It says, "Foolish is the person who misses the chance and afterwards reproaches fate." I think it's very nice. So you see, this is. It also has a meaning. It's not only pure decoration. And this is maybe, it's just a small insight into the museum, as we discussed. And then, I leave it up to Friedhelm Hütte to discuss a little bit more about the nature of Islamic art, but and the ornament, but you can see the Islamic ornament can be so many different things. It can be just design, it can have a meaning, it can have a symbol sometimes, it sometimes can be used for identity, these have those designs, the other group has another design. Can be fashion, it can be, and then of course it can have a religious aspect, indeed, and many people, in fact, think, it can be used in a religious aspect. So that these designs have no end, and in a metaphorical way. Yeah. Thank you. I hope this is.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Dr. Gonnella. And to show my presentation, you please close yours. Yeah, wonderful. And I saw several viewers were raising their hands. This function is not possible with our streaming, but we have the chat function. I already see 2 people putting forward questions. People look at and answer just after my presentation, after our discussion. So please use the chat function for your questions or remarks. And I will start now. Oh, jetzt sehe ich. Okay. Yeah, so when I was working on the exhibition about abstract art from our collection, and here you can see first insight. I became more and more aware, and even with other exhibitions I did before, that I would say an increasing number of artists and artworks as well have relationship via content or more formal to Islamic pattern, to motifs, to ornament, to geometrical grids, etc. And the first one I would like to show to in comparison with what Dr. Gonnella has shown, and she already mentioned, is Adriana Janine from Vienna, and she worked on these structures and pattern from the Mosque Ibn Tulun, from this wooden prayer, huge furniture, and she is using this part of this pattern, etc. So is abstract, and at the same time it has something in reality she was using to do that. And so this is the other is the octagon, is Nima Nabavi, lives now in Dubai, originally from Tehran, and he came back to designs and structures his grandfather in Tehran were using to develop designs, etc. And this is not made by computer. This is really handmade with thousands and thousands of very thin lines. And I did an online dialogue with him, and he said it's not, and I don't know much about Islamic art, but it's in the spirit of how my grandfather was doing that, and he was very close to that and knew a lot about that. So this is an artist using this tradition, using this this formal elements to make something new out of it. And here you can see how small and little and how fine these structures are. And of course, patterns and geometrical art if something is anyhow existing in, let's call Western art as well, like here, Tim Ulrichs or Ludwig Wilde, two German artists became famous in the 60s, or Francois Morellet, or another example, Soluit. So this is exactly or very close to this star elements, etc. So it's something independent because geometry and is the same anywhere in the world. But you see another example by Austrian artist Helmut Federle. But there are other artists really specifically referring to Islamic traditions, like Ito Barada from Morocco. And as you can read, she listed here in this piece of art all the terracotta tile work elements that were used in this traditional Moroccan arts and craft. And this is Achraf Touloub. He's from Morocco as well. And it looks like this one of the traditional formats, for example, for books. But if we have a closer look, it has this figurative elements. So this is, and when you have even a closer look, you see this is not something from history. I think this is about police and people being around there. So it's a very contemporary content there, and he uses his traditional standards to do that. And the same, and this is my last example, is Imran Qureshi from Pakistan. He is a professor for miniature painting, traditional miniature painting at the Art Academy in Lahore. And he is teaching how to do this with a special paper and techniques, but he's bringing in new and as well contemporary elements in this very, very old and traditional art. And if you have a closer look to the first examples, you see this is something from everyday life. It's a shirt being drying outside, and but beside that, these everyday life elements he's including. He has as well more political or social elements, like this is about so his terror experience. He was not himself involved, but he was living very close where a bomb exploded, and so he is using this impression and this memory to bring it in this other piece of art, and all the formal surrounding, etc. And the gold is very traditional, but he uses this for motifs and thoughts from our life today. So that's my last one, and I will close my presentation now. And so we started when we discussed before, or we ended with a question I will now start with. And so I was wondering if artists in Doha came to the museum, to the MIA, and are interested in these old traditions and want to see the works. And so, yes, so that's first question to you.
Yes, they are. They are. It's in fact, it's one of our pillars. We want to inspire artists. And in fact, there are, we first of all, I can start with our education center, really, which from the beginning has, was one of the missions to have this really strong outreach program. We were getting better. We're before Corona, of course, in the last years, but we have amazing courses on calligraphy. We have amazing courses on art, on geometrical patterns, on in all sorts of media. We have paintings, we have miniature. I mean, some of the art you were showing, not so much based on the geometrical pattern, but more on Indian, Iranian, in fact, Imran Qureshi, of course, Indian Mughal painting, which is very decorative, but it's not geometry, of course. But we even had teachers lecturing this, also paperwork. Then also we really would start now working with the M7, hopefully. This is another of Qatar Museum's new shots for, it's the hub for fashion and the arts and design. Qatar, I should mention, is extremely strong in design. They have a lot of, especially female young artists that are, extremely creative, and I hope for them. For example, we are planning a textile exhibition at one point, showing our old the historical textiles, so people really can come and create something new. And we did this. We had an exhibition on jewelry, and our art teacher, for example, she designed like a necklace based on Indian jewelry. So really, this is one of the big missions. Yeah.
Right. So I see there are a lot of questions coming in. So I start with the questions from our viewers first. And so the first is giving information to all viewers about the education center you already mentioned, and her or he is writing about great experience with the kids being there.
Yeah.
And the next is, does the MIA offer virtual tours? Virtual tours at the moment?
Yeah, well, we have some online. Yeah, we started with the online in Corona period. We had online classes, and we keep on having more. I should say that MIA is going to be closed now for 1 year because of the relaunch we are doing. So we will continue with the education classes, and the education wing will remain open, including the library. But we will also increase our, we have online classes, not so many yet as we want to, but we do have, yeah.
And there's one very specific question about, do you know maybe where this ornament in the middle of the last plate comes from? So, but there I don't know exactly what.
Yeah, I think I answered this already. This is,
okay.
This is from the Samanid. This is a development of an art form that developed in the Abbasid period in Basra. When Islamic art, Baghdad was the capital, and the Islamic art was at its greatest, once the golden age. And that's where they start.
So fast, you answered the questions already before you even could read it. So great. And then I think it's from an artist here in.
Yeah, that's a nice question. Yeah.
Yeah. So I read it. Well, I don't know. Can the public see all the questions as well? No. Yeah. And wouldn't it be great to realize a group exhibition containing artists from Qatar and Germany in 2022, when the whole world is going to look at Qatar due to the World Championship, building bridges between Western and Eastern art, like you showed in your beautiful presentation. Yeah, I think that's
yeah, but we have to come to Nawaf, Mr. Nawaf. We have to come to Qatar then, because I think the artist wants to see the championship. That's very clear.
Of course, and also we are looking forward to see fans from all the world. As they mentioned, the fans, when they come to Qatar, they will be also vaccinated. And as you see in the last Champions, when Bayern Munich won the World Cup, the clubs, there were like 50% fans attending the stadium. Yeah. So I guess, yeah, we are moving forward now. So we are looking forward.
But I think this is a very good project to have artist exchanges. We did this, in fact, with India. We had a year of culture. India, Qatar has each year, they have another partner. Germany was several years ago, as Friedhelm Hütte remembers. 2 years ago, we had Year of Culture India, and we sent a group, or we had a competition of Qatari artists, and they were sent to India, and they got inspired, and they produced these really beautiful Indian artworks, which we then presented at MIA. And I think it would be a lovely idea to have that with Germany, and also on a reciprocal way to get them together.
Yeah, and there's the next question or idea is the same. Is there an exchange between German and Qatari artists? If not, can this be activated? Yeah, so that's so what we have already seen, this richness and what is in the development of this, as we learned, diverse Islamic art. So because we have no better word at the moment for that. But it's so interesting to see how it still lives today and is looked for and is researched from contemporary artists to work with that. And there's a more technical thing about recording of our presentation. Yes, it will be available after we close today on our website, PalaisPopulaire. And so everybody can go there and see it again. So it is, we are recording it. Yeah, so I think no more questions are coming.
There is one question, I think it was interesting from Mona Tahar. The question said, does the MIA offer virtual tours? I think this is a good question.
Yeah, yes, we do. And we are actually just right now finishing our new tour with 3D objects included that will come up, especially now because we're being closed. We want to have everyone come into MIA all the time. So this should be on the website, inshallah, soon. Yeah.
Okay, great. So thank you very much. And this is not the end. This is beginning of something we will further discuss. So yeah, we will let you know when we have new ideas and when this beginning is going on. So thank you very much to Svenja von Reichenbach as well, to Dr. Georgios Kettner, and to both of you. Thank you very much. Take care and have safe travel back to Doha. Yeah.
Yes, and of course we all expect you to come once the MIA opens in its new shape. And you learn a lot of things apart from ornaments and geometry. So we really hope you will be coming. Thank you so much. Thank you very much for this conversation.
Yeah, thank you.
Bye.